Marco Rubio is in the same situation as Ron DeSantis, which is, and we see this from time to time with Republican lawmakers all the time. They have to justify why they want federal funds for disaster relief when they have consistently voted against it in their past. I mean, and look, again, hypocrisy, I don't think has much salience, particularly in terms of voters. But it is important, I think, for you folks to understand just how unprincipled these small government people are. Small government means nothing. It really means nothing. There is a question as to, do we want government to provide support for these things or those things? It's always a question of what kind of society do we want? It's not about the size of government. I'm not for all regulations because some regulations are bad. Some regulations are good. Anybody who has a blanket proclamation as to what they're for, good, all regulations or no regulations, or big government or small government, that's meaningless. It's really a question of what kind of society do we want and what's going to get us there. And for Marco Rubio, it is the kind of society that he wants where Florida gets help in disasters, but nowhere else does because it doesn't benefit him.
Senator, you wrote a letter Friday to the Senate Appropriations Committee asking for disaster relief dollars for desperately needed resources to rebuild Florida communities. After Hurricane Sandy hit northeastern states in 2012, you voted no on a $50 billion relief package. I know you supported a smaller version, but why should other senators vote for relief for your state when you didn't vote for a package to help theirs?
Oh, I've always voted for hurricane and disaster relief. I've even voted for it without pay-fors. What I didn't vote for in Sandy is because they had included things like a roof for a museum in Washington, D.C., for fisheries in Alaska. It had been loaded up with a bunch of things that had nothing to do with disaster relief. And I wouldn't support disaster relief efforts. I would never put out there that we should go use a disaster relief package for Florida as a way to pay for all kinds of other things people want around the country. So I think that's the key in moments like this. And Sandy, unfortunately, they loaded it up. They really did, with a bunch of things that had nothing to do with Sandy. But I voted for every disaster relief package, especially that's clean, and I'll continue to do so. When it comes to Florida, I'll do that again, and we'll make sure that that package is clean and doesn't have stuff for other people in there.
I read the Congressional Research Service report last night. It sounds like that roof actually was damaged by the hurricane, and what happened in Alaska was the result of another disaster. But in any event, my question is about the future. Are you telling me that if Hurricane Ian relief contains anything that smells like pork, you'll vote no?
Sure. I'll fight against it having pork in it. That's the key. We shouldn't have that in there because it undermines the ability.
All right, pause it. I don't know why she just moved on from that. Yeah. I did the research that shows that you're just full of absolute garbage bullshit. And why should other senators vote for this? Because this is the type of society we want, where if some people, and let's also be clear here, this is not a situation where it's like no fault of their own. People make choices as to where they live. This is not, wholly unpredictable. People make choices as to how much taxes they're going to pay, which determines how big the levees will be, how big the storm walls will be, how much money will be invested into sewerage to deal with storm surge. People make these decisions every day. So this isn't just a question of by no fault of their own. You could prepare for these storms better. They would involve increased taxes. It would involve a concerted effort by government. But the fact of the matter is, the reason why other senators should vote for this type of relief is because that's why you have societies.
Yeah, you don't want a society suspicious of disaster victims.
Yes. And it doesn't have to be disasters on this scale. It could be There are people who don't have health insurance. It could be that they're part of the 20% of people who happen to get more expensive diseases. And we could go on and on and on. And I would also say, you know, there's also this sort of same type of hypocrisy when it comes to immigration. This is from the New York Post. Pop this up, please, Bradley. You'll recall a couple of weeks ago, Ron DeSantis was exporting immigrants from Texas to Florida to send them to Massachusetts, Venezuelans. Here's a story from the New York Post. Go down to the first paragraph. Scores of Venezuelan migrants in New York City are hopping onto vans to head down to Florida for Hurricane Ian cleanup, they told the Post. $15 an hour overtime, $15 for food daily, I think, says Javier Moreno. Noting that a woman named Camilla from an organization approached him with a flyer. I mean, what better example of how much just BS this stunt by Ron DeSantis was? Are they gonna stop? I mean, it's not onesies, twosies. Where's the state troopers going to be on I-95?
Getting them in onesies and twosies coming to help clear debris.
Florida has the opportunity, Ron DeSantis has the opportunity to set up roadblocks on I-95 and prevent these people from coming in. Is he going to do it? Where are all the people in Florida now clamoring to make sure these migrant workers don't come into Florida and help with cleanup?
That was it, $12 million the state legislature put aside to move traffic people, basically. That would have been helpful for maybe evacuation efforts and that sort of stuff.
Right. Maybe they have some of that money left over to keep people from coming in. We'll see.